Namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Today I have with me a very learned, distinguished gentleman. I'd like to invite him, Dr. E Sreedharan, also called as Metro Man. Dr. Sreedharan, Namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskaram, Iyer. Thank you very much for inviting me to PGurus channel. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sreedharan, you have accomplished so much in your career, and it is a treat to just read about you, sir. You joined the railways, and one of your first assignments, as I read from your profile, was that you were tasked with reconstructing the Pamban Bridge in Dhanushkodi, which got washed away by a tidal wave in 1964. As when I was growing up, when I was very young, my mom used to tell me stories about how there was a train that was on the bridge when a tidal wave of as high as I think 27 feet hit, and the train completely submerged into the water, and all the passengers unfortunately didn't make it, and the bridge had to be reconstructed. Walk back down the memory lane, sir, and tell us what happened at that time and how you were tasked with reconstructing this very important bridge. Perhaps you can lay out the scenery about where Rameshwaram, the island, is located and the importance of this island.
Rameshwaram Island, as I told you, is a very small island. It is in the southernmost eastern tip of India. And Rameshwaram Island is connected, it's a big island. It's quite a big island. And the other end is Dhanushkodi. It's a small port. And in those days, Dhanushkodi in India and Talaimanar in Ceylon used to be the 2 points where ships used to ply. Ships used to be owned by South Indian Railway. They had 2 ships and they used to ferry passengers and goods between these 2 points. The railway system in Ceylon, railway system in India got bridge between the shipping service. Now what happened was, on 23rd December 1963, I remember that date so well, there was what they call a tsunami. In those days, the word tsunami was not very popular, so they used to call it tidal waves. Tidal waves started beating Rameshwaram Island and the bridge. And it came into fierce proportions very, very quickly. And there was a train basically meant for Dhanushkodi. Dhanushkodi was the terminus of the railway system. The train was moving from Pamban, that there is immediately you cross the railway bridge, there is a junction called the Pamban Junction. From the Pamban Junction, one line goes to Dhanushkodi, another line goes to Rameshwaram temple area, very small distance. It's only about 8 kilometers, and this is about 20 kilometers. The train had crossed the railway bridge, and it was going towards Dhanushkodi with about 250 passengers. And the driver was not very confident to take the train beyond. So the railway ministry gave instructions that one of the engineering officials should pilot the train. That was the instruction given. So one bridge inspector got into the engine cab, so in those days all steam engines, and he was piloting. At one stage, he found that it was not possible to move further because the track has been washed out, and they got stranded there in between Dhanushkodi and Pamban. At that time, only the tidal waves came, and the tidal waves washed out the whole train with the passengers into the sea. The train was not seen except the engine. Engine was a huge, with iron made. It was not get washed. It collapsed there, capsized, and the rest of it all wooden bodies. In those days, the train used to be nearly with wooden bodies. The whole train was missing except the engine, and all the passengers died. Only after 3-4 days, part of the train came floating back. Only the bogies came floating back. It did not reach Dhanushkodi. The train was washed out. In the same tidal verse, the bridge also got washed out, what is called the Pamban Bridge. The Pamban Bridge consists of 146 spans of 40 feet, with a particular span called Scherzer span, which can open up for ships to pass. The ship which used to go from Dhanushkodi to Alemena and also from Mandapam. Mandapam was this base for the ships for servicing. The ship used to pass through the bridge and the bridge will open out. It is a 300 feet long span which can open up and ships can pass through. Except for the Scherzer span, 100 out of 146 spans, 126 spans got washed away. Also, 2 piers of the bridge got washed away. That was the situation. Then I was called. I was then having my Christmas holiday at my native place. A special messenger came to me saying that you are required immediately to report to the chief engineer in Chennai. And when I went there, I saw first in the papers. Somehow I had an inkling that I may be asked to go and take over this work immediately. I went there. The chief engineer told me that bridge has been washed up today and has got to be immediately restored. Earlier, the bridge was washed out and finding the damage was so much. The railway ministry took the stand that we will not restore this bridge at all. It is going to be such a big task, so expensive. And already there's a proposal for a road bridge to be constructed that was under planning but not started. But the members of parliament from north, they had a great attachment to Rameshwaram. People, particularly, they used to come for pilgrimage. They insisted that the bridge should be restored back. So the railway board gave orders, the bridge should be restored back, and they set a time of 6 months for restoring the bridge. And that was reported to Parliament also. But when I went there, the then general manager of Southern Railway said, we can't wait. The pilgrims can't wait for 6 months to go to Rameshwaram. So the bridge should be restored in 3 months at least. That was the order given to me. So when I went there to read the place, it was so difficult because all the approaches were washed out, so many houses were washed out, so many dead bodies, particularly carcasses of animals, were lying all over the place. Anyway, I went there and started the restoration work. Fortunately, as against the 3 months set by the general manager and 6 months set by the railway board, I was able to restore the bridge in just 46 days.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, that is, I was able to do it because I adopted a strategy which was totally different from what the railway ministry wanted. Railway ministry decided that 126 spans have gone away, so we must get 126 steel girders immediately from all over the places, railways. So they started ordering railway bridges in the workshops, then release girders lying all over India, from Assam and Delhi, Jodhpur, all over the places, they started moving the girder towards this place. When I went there, and I found that if these girders have to come, they themselves will take at least 3 months to reach the place. It's not possible to do it. So when I started reconnoitering the area, the fishermen of that place came and told me that, sir, we found a girder lying about 2 kilometers downstream. By that time, the sea water was very clear. It's about 40 feet depth of water. The girder is lying clearly. We can see from the surface. So I went there and saw a girder lying. Then I thought if one girder is lying, other girders also must be lying in the neighborhood. I started searching it, and I found that many girders are already available there. We need not wait for these girders to come from Jodhpur and other places. So I got immediately rigged up a sort of a floating crane to pick up these girders from the sea bottom. With the help of the fishermen, they could go down and hook it. So all the 126 girders I was able to retrieve quickly one by one, bring them, drag them up the shore, and started again repainting and all that. And girders we started using from the other Pamban side of the bridge as well as from the Mandaman side of the bridge, two ends. On one side, a crane was working, placing the girders in place. The other side also we rigged up a sort of an arrangement for the girders to be picked up and placed on the piers. Like that, we started from both ends. To start with, we could only do one span a day. Then we started two spans a day. As the laborers and engineers got experience and confidence, we were able to increase the number. And on the final day, we put 8 spans in one day. When by the girders are being placed, the track has got to be linked, and the two piers washed out. It has got to be rebuilt. All that we could organize and get it done. So it's a new strategy for retrieving the girders from the sea and then repainting and reusing it from both ends. That is why we were able to finish it in 46 days. And this was possible because the experience I had working in the sea earlier in my career. I was a trainee in the Bombay Port Trust. When the Butcher Island, the oil terminal in Butcher Island was under construction. So I had worked in that, so I knew what to do, the tidal variations, the tidal timings, and how things can be picked up from the bottom, taken up to the bank. All this I had good experience. When the railway posted me to that place, they never knew that I had this marine experience earlier. That was just coincidence. That is how
Well,
it was possible.
it was probably the most difficult job in railways at that time, and they gave it to you.
Yes, yes,
Sir,
yes.
I can't express in words how difficult this would have been. Remembering that it was in 1963, 64, it was so early. I remember traveling on that bridge in 1979, I think. And
Mhm.
when you go on that bridge, sir, it's still my recollection. You can see very geometric boulders, like huge rocks. And I was wondering, is that also part of the Rama Setu that was there, or was these rocks put in there to build the bridge? I don't know. Maybe you can ascertain for us what it was.
Uh, I had also seen these things, huge rocks lying there, all very nicely, good shape, well shaped.
Yes,
I
yes.
think it must be the original seabed itself. Seabed itself.
Mm.
The seabed was rock in that area. That is
And
only in the beginning. Later on, it's also all sand. In the
right,
beginning,
right.
it was.
In the beginning, right. But fascinating story, sir. And let's from there on, you progressed through the railways, administrative ladder and so on. How did you land being responsible for the first ever metro? Maybe not the first metro, but the Delhi metro. Perhaps you can bring us. Our viewers are, in the 18 to 40, 45 category. Many of whom are, raised on much better, comforts than perhaps you and I were. So perhaps you can recount how this thing came about.
Well, in the railways, I started going up the ladder, no doubt. When I was deputy chief engineer in the railways, the railways get very frequent transfers, inter-railway transfers. I got transferred from Southern Railway. I was originally belonging to Southern Railway. I got transferred to Southeastern Railway in Calcutta. And after going there, Southeastern Railway also started transferring me to various places. I was finding very difficult to see that my children get schools in all the places. So seeing my difficulty, the then general manager told me that if you don't want to go on transfer like that, you better go to Calcutta Metro project. The metro organization was just then started. He advised me to join Calcutta Metro. So I joined Calcutta Metro in 1960 or so. 1960, I joined Calcutta. Not 1960. in 1970.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
1970 I joined Calcutta. So I was a deputy chief engineer in Calcutta Metro for designs, for civil engineering designs. All the designs I was there. We had engaged at that time Russian experts as our consultants, but they were only guiding us. Things were not moving very fast. So that was my first exposure to a metro project. While I was in the Calcutta Metro, the government sent me to Japan to attend a tunnel seminar. When I went there, I found Tokyo is already, metro system has developed very well, trains are running very well, and there was a good system there. So on my own, I stayed back in Tokyo for 4 more days beyond the time allowed by the government, and went and studied the metro system very well. And not only that, I collected drawings, collected designs, all from the Japanese metro office, brought them to Calcutta, and based on that, the design was started. So that was the first exposure to metro. But I did not stay in Calcutta Metro to complete the Calcutta Metro. I was only in the initial stages for the design and planning. By that time, my next promotion was due. And in the railways, when the promotion comes, you always get a transfer. So I got a transfer, came out of Calcutta Metro. Now, Delhi Metro was a different story. By that time, I had already retired from the railways in 1990. As I told you, as the member engineering railway board, the topmost technical post on the railways. But immediately on my retirement, I was given the responsibility for the Konkan Railway, a 760-kilometer long railway line between Mumbai and Mangalore through the western, to the Konkan coast. And that, sorry.
Sir, I just want to, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to set the context for many of our youngsters. Today, you take it for granted that there's this picturesque, scenic Konkan Railway. But before this thing came along, if you lived in Bengaluru or anywhere down south, the only way you could come to Bombay or Mumbai was to go down south all the way to, I think, around Kochi area, then turn north, come to Coimbatore, then come to, it was a long journey if you took the railroad. And if you took the road, even that was not so easy. So please continue, sir. I just wanted to tell you, this Konkan Railway made it so much easier for the accessibility for people living on the West Coast. Please continue, sir.
Yes, you are right. The Konkan Railway reduced the travel distance from Bombay to Kochi or Mangalore by about 610 kilometers.
Yes.
The journey time by about 24 hours. That was the advantage of Konkan Railway. This railway was even thought of during the British days, but the Britishers did not want to take it up because it was going through such a very difficult terrain conditions. Hills and valleys and rivers, so many rivers. So it was taken up only after I retired, and I was appointed as the chairman and managing director of Konkan Railway Corporation. How the Konkan Railway Corporation came into being, who thought about it, all that, I'm not going to the details. I can only tell you that the concept of Konkan Railway, how to raise funds for the project, and what should be the administrative structure for getting it implemented. These are all my ideas. These ideas I gave to the Railway Minister, Mr. Fernandez, at that time. And he was so impressed by the ideas, he put me in charge of the work immediately on my retirement. That is how I happened to get into Konkan Railway. And at that time, I gave a period of 7 years for completing this very, very difficult railway construction. And I was able to do it exactly within 7 years. The whole work was completed. So seeing my performance in Konkan Railway, how it was being organized, how it was being executed, somehow the government had confidence that I should be the person to handle the Delhi Metro. That is how I landed. I did not straight away land there. The Delhi Metro Rail Corporation was formed. Then agreement was signed with the Japanese government for funding most of it, part of it. But they were not able to get a managing director for the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation for a long time. Then they set up a search party, in which I was also a member of the search party, to find out a person who could handle this project. The search party also could not find a suitable person. At that time only, the Delhi government said, why do you go for search party? Why not you take over this work yourself? I immediately said, it's not possible. First of all, by that time, I was already 65. And there's a rule in Government of India, nobody should be, again, employed after 65. So the Government of India will not agree for my posting. And then at that time, Konkan Railway was nearing completion. I said, no, Railway Ministry will not release me from Konkan Railway. This difficulty is put forth, but they said we will sort out all these problems. Kindly come and take over. So that is how I landed in Delhi for Delhi Metro, and for about nearly 9 months I was in charge of both Delhi Metro as well as Konkan Railway. Till Konkan Railway was finished, then I moved to the Delhi Metro.
Sir, I must tell my experiences in traveling in Delhi Metro. It's been one of the finest, and I have in fact used the metro right from the time I land in the international terminal. In one of the terminals, it goes right down to the metro station. Believe it or not, I used to, you know how when you travel from abroad, you have these huge suitcases and it is difficult to move around. So I have even figured out a way to put the big suitcases in the cloakroom and then go down to the metro, take the metro, do all my, if I was visiting Delhi only for a day, I didn't need to take all my bags. I would just use the metro, and everything was right there. And you can come to Parliament in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And it was so convenient. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. Please, those of you who happen to be in Delhi or who happen to visit Delhi, do use the metro. It's spotlessly clean. It is getting very popular these days because a lot of people, use it. I'm talking about pre-COVID days. It used to be very, very busy, especially the line from that goes to Gurgaon. I used to use that. My sister lives in Gurgaon, so I used to frequent it. And the reason people use metro is if you want to be on time for a meeting, you use the metro, because you take the metro and go to the nearest point where you will be meeting the person, and take the last mile, you take an auto or something, and you will be on time. Taking, even if you can afford a car or anything else, because of the traffic in Delhi, you can never tell when you are going to be on time. So that's my pitch for Delhi Metro, one of the finest pieces of engineering that I have seen. Also, I must mention, I have looked at Japan's metro system. I used to, sir, just for your information and for our viewers, I used to travel to Japan frequently in the 90s. And at that time, there is a place called Shinjuku, which is the heart of the Tokyo. And that is where, there's one of the busiest stations. And a friend of mine told me that Shinjuku, there are so many layers of trains coming in. He said that at one point there are 14 layers of trains going up and down. So it was just mind-blowing that they could do that kind of engineering, especially on Earth that is always shifting. Japan is an earthquake-prone country, and yet they found a way to build those metros truly spectacular. And viewers, if you go to Tokyo, you don't need to go outside the metro's ecosystem. You can eat there, you can do everything right there, and then you can get around. Then to go to sleep, you can go to your hotel. It was such a fantastic experience that I had. I just wanted to tell you, and I'm beginning to see metro in Delhi having similar facilities now as more and more infrastructural things are coming up. Fantastic work, sir. I tip my hat to you, because this was the first time that I saw truly a magnificent piece of engineering being put together, and Delhi Metro is expanding. It is expanding like rabbits now. And maybe you can tell us how far it's going to go before, they're going to say, okay, this system is complete.
Well, Delhi Metro is being implemented in phases. So I had the privilege of implementing the first 2 phases of Delhi Metro. That's about 180 kilometers. At that time itself, the 3rd phase was being planned, and getting sanction was sanction was coming. I left Delhi Metro in December 2011. At that time, it was 180 kilometers long. Today, it is already 350 kilometers long. And the present reckoning is Delhi Metro should go at least about 600 kilometers, various lines. So phase after phase, works are being taken up. It is going on. Now, the big thing about the Delhi Metro is once Delhi Metro was constructed, the way it was designed, planned, and implemented, that became a role model for the whole country. And seeing the success of that Delhi Metro, so many other cities in India started wanting metro systems. So I have the satisfaction that what I started in Delhi Metro, it is being now replicated in 17 more cities in India itself. And out of 17 cities, at least 15 cities, I myself had gone and planned the system and got the detailed project report prepared and got them sanctioned by the government of India. So the success of Delhi Metro really started a metro revolution in the whole country. And I was involved in most of the metros as either directly in charge or as an advisor. For example, Kochi Metro, I was directly handling it myself after coming back from Delhi. So it has been, the metro has really changed the way people travel in metropolitan cities.
And it's truly spectacular. I mean, I can't say enough good words about it. Especially I have to explain this to our viewers. See, when people are from abroad, such as myself, come, the first thing that strikes you is the population, and then suddenly because we are not used to that density outside, but if you look at once you get into the metro, you are almost transported back to the same kind of a developed system. Everything is clean. I mean, you can go to places quickly, and more importantly, punctuality. You come with a laundry list of 10 things to do. You can get those things done by using metro. And Dr. Sreedharan, I used to live, stay in near Janpath area. And I would always look for the closest metro station to go to wherever I wanted to. I mean, sometimes I would go to like Noida to attend some of this TV live, programs and things like that. I used to take the metro that goes to Noida. Sometimes I would even change trains, go here, there. I found my way around. It was really, really easy. People explained, they helped you. There were information counters. I mean, what I'm saying is it really showed India how a modern developed world looks like, and it was right in Delhi. So hats off to you again, sir. So let's take a look at after the was Kochi your last assignment on the metros, or did you work after that also? Okay.
Yes. Kochi was the last.
So now you finished that, and then you started a new innings in your life. And this is something that perhaps many of the viewers may not be aware of, that you started doing Katha Kalakshepam, and these are things that I don't know. It is something like from an engineering mindset to go into Vedanta and Puranas and things like that. How did this transformation come about?
Well, this is basically from the family background. I come from a very religious family. And, in Kerala, intercaste marriage is very, very popular. So my father was a Brahmin, but my mother was not a Brahmin. And my father used to stay with us in the same house. So we were brought up in that fashion. And I could see my father always reading Bhagavatam. And so that sort of atmosphere I grew. So right from early days, I started, unfortunately, I had Sanskrit as my second language. I started reading Bhagavad Gita, then Bhagavatam, and got involved in this spiritual pursuits in a big way. Actually, the real change in my life pattern came in 2002 when I came across my Guruji, Swami Bhumananda Tirthaji near Thrissur of Narayana Ashra Tapovanam. He is my spiritual guru. I happened to listen to his exposure of Bhagavad Gita in one of the talks in Delhi when I was managing director Delhi Metro. Happened to listen to him. I was so much dumbfounded the way he was exposing such a good religious text that I later on became his disciple. And that change made a lot of change later on in my life. I started spending more time in spirituality, meditation, and it became a regular practice with me that morning I always read Srimad Bhagavatam. Not reading alone, reading, understanding, and trying to practice what is mentioned there. Evening, same way I read Bhagavad Gita. Same thing, not merely reading, I try to understand the meaning of each word, the meaning of every sloka, the message contained in every sloka, and started practicing the same thing in my professional life. So that is how I got into the spirituality. Even today, there's a good balance with my professional life and my spiritual life.
Oh, wow. Again, viewers, I just want to draw your attention to something. How did Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam survive through thousands of years? I found out when I read a beautiful tree by Dharampal, where he quotes different English, travelers through India who were describing the Gurukula system that used to be prevalent before Lord Macaulay came and wiped the whole slate clean. But at that time, in 1820s, up until 1820s, I think, I mean, it continued after that, but it slowly started decaying after that, is that every person who went to Gurukula, they were fed a staple on Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam. These were the main subjects they were taught. The reason I think people decided to use that was because these things taught you everything that you needed to know in life.
Yes.
Right? So that is why even today people can recollect clearly when what happened, why everybody's house, everybody talks about Rama, everybody talks about Krishna, and so on. And we have to thank our forefathers for having chosen these small incidents in the history of India and said that this is what the next generation must remember. Sir, I just thought I should tell. I like to, connect with the rest of the people because everybody who's curious might like to know how did these things survive? That is how they survived. So please continue.
You are absolutely very, very correct. In this Gurukula system, there were no books, there were no texts. They had the palm leaves on which these things are recorded. But all these stories, all these slokas, passed from generation to generation by mere hearing. It is how started. For so many years, thousands of years, this has happened. And without any change in the word, any change in the letters of the word, things have come down to us. It's something unimaginable that what was written about 5,000 years back is still in the same way, in the same spirit, the same letters, it is still available for the present generation. This is a very unique thing that has happened. That is the majesty of Indian tradition.
Yes, indeed. And I can go on and on, but I'm hoping that Dr. Sreedharan will find time in his busy schedule to talk about some of these things in detail in a future interview. And I think the most takeaway point for me is listening to you, sir, is that if you set your mind to it, you can achieve anything. And sir, I can't say in words how impressed I am by what you've accomplished in your life. If every one of us even accomplishes 1/10 of what you have in yours, we can think of our life as being well spent. Dr. Sreedharan, it was a pleasure, an honor to be able to listen to you, sir. And I'm hoping that we will be having many more such conversations in depth where you can dwell upon a particular topic, and we'll be very happy to provide you our platform. Once again, sir, from the bottom of my heart, namaskaram to you and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iyer. Thank you very much for your kind words and the way you have handled the subject today. Thank you very much.